What happens when one of Hollywood's most beloved men, the calm, the kind, the endlessly patient Tom Hanks, suddenly loses his composure on live television? The answer? You could feel the world freeze in disbelief. The View's audience, the hosts, the crew, even the cameras seemed to hesitate. No one expected what came next. But before we go deeper into that moment, if you're watching this on Stage View, make sure to subscribe right now, hit the like button, and drop a comment below. Because what you're about to witness isn't just another celebrity moment. It's a rare glimpse into the storm behind the smile, a side of Tom Hanks the world has never seen before. The morning had started like any other episode of The View. The audience clapped, the lights gleamed against the stage, and Joy Behar's familiar laughter filled the air. The energy was high. Tom was there to promote his new film, a touching drama about forgiveness and family. The crowd adored him. He waved, smiled, even cracked a gentle joke about being America's dad again. It was all easy charm, until it wasn't. From the moment he sat down, something in Tom's eyes felt off. Not angry, but distant. Like someone who'd walked into a room full of noise while carrying a quiet storm inside. Joy leaned forward with that classic mischievous grin. "So Tom," she began, "you've been playing these incredibly moral, good-hearted guys for decades. Ever feel like you're trapped being the nice guy of Hollywood?" The audience chuckled. Even Tom smiled faintly, but his eyes flickered. "Well," he said softly, "sometimes being the nice guy isn't as easy as it looks." The crowd laughed again, but there was something in his tone, a heaviness that slipped through the polish. Sonny Hostin jumped in. "Oh, come on, Tom. You've always been the calm voice in chaos. Even during controversies, you never." Tom cut her off, gently, but with a sharpness that made everyone stop breathing for half a second. "Sonny, I think people mistake silence for calm," he said. "Sometimes silence is just exhaustion." A hush fell. Joy blinked. The co-hosts looked at each other. "Exhaustion," Joy repeated, laughing nervously. "From what?" "You're Tom Hanks, America loves you." That's when it happened. A subtle shift, like a storm cloud creeping across a summer sky. Tom leaned forward, his voice steady but tight. "Joy, that's the problem, isn't it? People love an image. They don't love you. They love the version that never argues, never slips, never tells the truth about how heavy it all gets." The crowd didn't know whether to clap or stay silent. A few awkward laughs trickled in, but the air had changed. Joy tried to steer it back. "Well, we all have bad days. But come on, Tom. You're one of the most respected." He shook his head. "Respect," he said quietly, "isn't real when people only give it to your reflection." Even Whoopi Goldberg, who'd been sitting back watching, raised her brows. "Tom," she said carefully, "you okay, honey? You sound like something's been building up." Tom chuckled, but it wasn't the warm, familiar laugh the world knew. It was bitter. "Building up? Yeah, you could say that." The audience shifted uneasily. The camera caught glimpses of confused faces. Fans who came expecting jokes and warmth, now staring at a man who looked like he was done pretending. Joy, ever the provocateur, leaned in again, her tone teasing but edged with discomfort. "Tom, you sound like you're about to say something you'll regret." He looked right at her. Maybe it's time someone did. The studio went silent. For a moment, no one moved. The sound of the lights buzzing overhead filled the space like white noise. And then Tom spoke again, softer this time. "You sit here every day, Joy, asking people about their lives, their beliefs, their mistakes. But what about your own? Do you ever think about the things you say, how they land?" Joy blinked rapidly. "Excuse me?" He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. His calmness was the tension. "You've made a career out of pressing buttons. You laugh when people crack, but what happens when someone presses yours?" The audience gasped. You could feel the energy pulse through the studio. Whoopi muttered, "Oh boy," under her breath. Sonny looked down, trying to de-escalate. "Tom, let's take a breath." But Tom wasn't finished. His tone deepened, like someone releasing years of quiet frustration. "You all invite people here to talk, but you don't listen. You wait for a headline. You wait for that one viral clip. But maybe some of us are tired of being clips." The crew exchanged nervous glances. One camera operator whispered, "Are we cutting to break?" But the producer signaled to keep rolling. This was TV gold, and everyone knew it. Joy folded her arms, masking her unease with sarcasm. "Okay, so now you're accusing us of being fake?" Tom smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I'm saying maybe television stopped being about truth a long time ago." There was an audible murmur from the audience. Some clapped. Others stayed still, unsure whether they were witnessing honesty or meltdown. Joy tried to regain control. Well, Tom, this is the view. We're supposed to have opinions. He nodded. Right. But what happens when opinions become weapons? That line hit hard. Even Whoopi looked shaken. The camera zoomed in. The contrast between Joy's tight smile and Tom's unwavering stare told the story better than words. The air was heavy, electric. Every second felt stretched. And then Tom leaned back, exhaled, and for a fleeting moment the mask slipped. His eyes glistened, not with anger, but with fatigue. I didn't come here to fight, he said softly. I came here to talk about a movie about grace. Funny how grace feels like the hardest thing to find lately. The audience finally exhaled. A few clapped, uncertainly. Whoopi jumped in, her tone careful, soothing. Tom, let's take a quick break, okay? But as the music swelled and the lights dimmed for commercial, Tom stayed seated. His hand gripped the armrest, knuckles pale. He stared straight ahead, jaw tight, eyes unblinking. Joy glanced at him, a flicker of guilt crossing her face, something unspoken hanging between them. As the studio went dark, the tension didn't fade. It lingered, thick and alive, like static after lightning. The break couldn't come fast enough. But no one, not even the hosts, realized that when the cameras came back on, things would only get worse. Much worse. Because what happened after that break would be replayed millions of times, dissected, debated, and remembered as the moment Tom Hanks, Hollywood's eternal gentleman, finally stopped smiling. The red light above the camera blinked back on, the applause sign flashed, and the audience did what they always did, clapped and cheered as the host smiled wide, pretending everything was fine. But behind those smiles, the energy in the studio had shifted. It wasn't the warm, daytime cheer that usually filled the view. It was something colder. Tom Hanks sat still, his posture calm but unyielding, like a man who had just decided something important and irreversible. The commercial break had done nothing to cool the moment. If anything, it had made the silence heavier. Joy Behar, ever the professional, was the first to break it. Her tone had a rehearsed brightness to it, the kind that screams control. Welcome back, everyone. We're here with the one and only Tom Hanks, Hollywood legend, two-time Oscar winner, and a man with a lot on his mind today. The audience laughed nervously. Tom didn't. He gave a half smile that didn't reach his eyes. Whoopi leaned in, her tone gentle but measured. Tom, before the break, you said something powerful about silence and exhaustion. And I think that struck a chord with a lot of people. Would you like to finish that thought? Tom's gaze drifted between the co-hosts, Sunny, Whoopi, Joy, and Sarah Haynes, before landing back on Joy. He took a slow breath. I've been doing interviews for 40 years. And every time I come on shows like this, it's the same thing. The same surface questions. The same jokes. But no one ever asks what it costs to be the person people think you are. The audience murmured. Joy shifted in her chair, visibly uncomfortable now. Well, we're a talk show, Tom. We keep it light. People don't tune in for therapy. He tilted his head. Maybe they should. The audience gasped, a sharp inhale that rippled across the studio. Sarah tried to jump in, lightening the mood. Okay, we love a deep chat, but let's talk about your new film. It's about forgiveness, right? Tom smiled faintly. Forgiveness. Yeah. He paused, the word hanging in the air. That's something we could all use more of. But it's hard to find forgiveness when people don't even realize they're doing harm. Joy's voice edged toward defensive. Tom, this isn't harm. It's a conversation. You came here to promote a movie. We're having a discussion, that's all. Tom leaned forward, eyes locked on her. Joy, it stopped being a discussion the second you decided to laugh at what I was saying before the break. The room froze. The tension was thick enough to feel through the camera lens. Whoopi's eyes darted between them, her calm slipping into concern. All right, let's. But Tom wasn't done. You laughed, he said again, quieter this time. And that's what happens everywhere. People laugh when something real slips out. They laugh to cover it, to keep things easy. Because God forbid someone says something that isn't safe for television. A murmur spread through the audience, some clapped, some didn't know what to do. Joy, caught between embarrassment and irritation, chuckled tightly. Tom, come on, we joke. That's what we do. You've been in this business long enough to know not to take everything so seriously. Tom's face hardened. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe we've all stopped taking anything seriously. Whoopi intervened, raising a hand. Okay, hold on, let's not do this. Joy, let him finish. Joy shot her a look. Whoopi, please, I'm fine. No, Whoopi said, turning to Tom. Go ahead, say what you want to say. But let's keep it real. No personal attacks. Tom nodded, his tone low and measured. This isn't personal. It's perspective. You all sit here every morning and talk about people. Their choices, their mistakes, their lives. But you forget that those people go home and hear every word you say. You make jokes about pain, about scandals, and the world laughs along. But you never see the after. The audience was silent. Every camera was locked on him now. Tom continued, his voice trembling slightly, not with anger, but with conviction. I've seen what fame does. It builds you up until you can't breathe, and then one bad headline tears it all down. You want to know why I sound tired? Because I've watched this industry chew people up and pretend it's entertainment. Sonny finally spoke softly. Tom, you sound like you're carrying a lot. Has something happened recently that made you feel this way? He hesitated. For the first time since the show began, he looked vulnerable. His eyes darted toward the floor before meeting hers again. I lost someone close. Someone the media never left alone. And when it happened, all those jokes, all those little digs, they came rushing back. That's when I realized we've forgotten compassion. Gasps filled the room. Joy's expression softened, guilt flickering across her face. Tom, I didn't know. He nodded slowly. You weren't supposed to. Because it's easier that way, isn't it? Easier not to know. Easier to smile and move to the next segment. A long pause. You could feel everyone holding their breath. Then quietly Joy whispered, You're right. That silence, that one moment of surrender, cracked something open. Whoopi, ever the veteran of live tension, turned to the audience, her voice calm but trembling. You see, this is what real conversation looks like. It's messy. It's human. The audience began to applaud. Softly at first, then louder. It wasn't the usual TV cheer. It was a slow, respectful acknowledgement. Tom nodded slightly, emotion clouding his voice. That's all I wanted. Just something real. But before anyone could exhale, Joy, ever the firebrand, straightened in her chair. The flicker of guilt had turned into something else. Pride, maybe even defensiveness. Tom, you're right about compassion. But don't sit there and act like you've never laughed at anyone else's pain. You're human too. Don't preach like you're above it. The audience gasped again, a collective oh no wave rippling across the studio. Tom froze. His eyes hardened just a fraction. You're right, he said. I've laughed too. I've been part of the noise. But at least now I'm trying to listen to it. The air was thick with emotion, shame, truth, defiance, all tangled together. And then, for the first time, Joy didn't have a comeback. She just looked at him, eyes wide, face unreadable. The cameras zoomed in close. It was the kind of shot producers dream about, raw, unfiltered, human. Whoopi cleared her throat, breaking the spell. We're going to take another quick break, folks, she said, voice shaking slightly. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. As the theme music rose again and the lights dimmed, the audience sat frozen, whispering to each other. Joy leaned toward Tom, her voice low, off mic. You blindsided me. Tom didn't flinch. No, I just stopped playing along. The producer's voice cut through the chaos, counting down to black. And we're out. But the cameras stopped rolling too late to miss it. That look on Joy's face. Not anger. Not even embarrassment. Something else. Something closer to realization. Backstage, crew members whispered among themselves. One muttered, that wasn't in the script. Another said, it's going to trend by noon. They were both right. Because when The View came back for its next segment, the one that was supposed to be about Tom's movie, everything had changed. The tone, the rhythm, the trust. And what happened in that final half hour would turn an uncomfortable interview into one of the most unforgettable moments in live television history. When the cameras came back, something in the air felt different. Heavier, unpredictable, electric. The applause sign flashed again, but this time the clapping was half-hearted, uneven, unsure. The audience wasn't certain whether they were watching an interview or an emotional breakdown in real time. Tom Hanks sat perfectly still, his hands folded in his lap. Joy Behar leaned forward, her expression tight but composed, like a performer determined not to miss a cue. Whoopi Goldberg, usually the calm heartbeat of The View, looked uneasy. Even she didn't know where this was headed. Welcome back, Joy said, forcing a smile that didn't quite fit. We're still here with Tom Hanks, talking about his new film, Grace at Midnight. A story about forgiveness, which I think we could use a bit of right now. Her voice had that familiar teasing lilt, but everyone could feel the edge underneath. Tom glanced up, eyes steady. Forgiveness starts when someone stops pretending there's nothing to forgive. The audience gasped, a ripple of sound that spread through the room like static. Joy blinked. Okay, you know what, Tom? I think we're going in circles. You came here to promote a movie. Let's stick to that before the internet turns this into something it's not. Tom's expression softened. It already is something, Joy. It's the truth. The kind of moment that doesn't get rehearsed or edited before it airs. Whoopi shifted in her seat. All right, let's just breathe. We're live, people. Let's not make headlines for the wrong reason. But it was already too late. Sunny Hostin, sitting at the far end of the table, spoke up quietly. Maybe this is the right reason, Whoopi. I mean, when do we ever get to see real emotion on daytime TV anymore? It's always about ratings, not reflection. Joy turned toward her, incredulous. Reflection? What are you talking about? We're journalists, Sunny. We talk. We debate. Tom's eyes narrowed slightly. You debate, Joy. You don't listen. That line landed like thunder. The audience let out a collective gasp, some clapping, others murmuring in disbelief. Joy tried to laugh it off. Okay, you're really not letting this go, huh? Tom leaned forward, his voice calm but firm. You want me to promote the movie? Fine. Grace at Midnight is about a man who loses everything because he can't let go of his pride. He learns that sometimes being right isn't worth the damage it causes. He looked directly at her. Maybe you should watch it. The room erupted. The crowd gasped again, half in shock, half in awe. Whoopi's mouth fell open slightly. Oh boy. Okay. She looked off stage. Can we please go to commercial again? But the producer didn't cut. They were still live. Joy stared at Tom, blinking fast, her usual confidence cracking. You're really going there, huh? On my show. Tom shook his head slowly. It's not your show, Joy. It's everyone's. But you've made it about you for so long, you forgot that. It was like the oxygen had been sucked out of the studio. The audience was holding their breath. The co-hosts were frozen. Sarah Haynes finally whispered, "Oh my God," under her breath, barely audible. Joy's composure broke. You don't get to sit here and lecture me, Tom. You've had an entire career of people kissing your ring. You think because you play saints on screen, you are one? Please. Tom looked down, then up again, eyes steady. No, Joy. I think because I've spent my life pretending to be good, I know what it looks like when someone forgets how. The audience exploded. Gasps, cheers, even a few whistles. You could feel the room split in two, half siding with Joy, half with Tom. Whoopi raised her hand sharply. Stop. Enough. This is not why people tune in. Tom turned to her, and for the first time his voice trembled, not with anger, but with exhaustion. Maybe it should be. Maybe people should see what happens when the mask falls off. He paused, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. Because that's where the truth lives, underneath all the laughter. The entire studio went quiet. You could hear someone in the back sniffle. The audience wasn't watching a celebrity anymore. They were watching a man stripped raw, shaking under the lights of live television. Joy sat back, speechless for once. Her eyes darted to Whoopi, as if looking for rescue. But Whoopi didn't move. She just stared at Tom, not angry, not defensive, just deeply, silently moved. Sunny leaned forward. Tom, what are you really saying right now? He hesitated, then looked straight into the camera. I'm saying we've all become actors in a world that stopped caring about truth. We smile on cue. We cry on cue. We judge strangers and call it entertainment. And we tell ourselves it's okay, because that's just how it works. He swallowed, the emotion raw in his throat. But it's not okay. It's never been okay. The audience began clapping, slowly, then faster, building into something thunderous. It wasn't applause for a celebrity. It was for a human being finally saying what everyone felt but never dared to admit. Whoopi exhaled, leaning back in her chair. You just gave the most honest moment this show's had in years. Tom gave a tired smile. Then maybe it was worth it. Joy still hadn't spoken. She sat frozen, eyes locked on the table, her hand trembling slightly. Sarah, voice soft, said, Tom, I think people are going to remember this. He nodded. I hope so. Not because of me, but because maybe, just maybe, someone watching this will remember to be kind before they hit send. The audience erupted again, clapping, cheering, standing. Whoopi turned to the camera, trying to regain control of the show. All right, we're going to take a quick break, folks. Don't go anywhere. But Tom reached over, placing his hand gently on her arm. No, let's not cut this. Let's just sit in it for a second. It was such a simple request, but it carried the weight of everything that had been said. The cameras stayed on. The music cue faded. The lights hummed. And for one breathtaking minute, no one said a word. No one moved. The audience sat in reverent silence, watching a man, a movie star, a legend, sit with his truth. Then finally Joy spoke. Her voice was small, almost broken. "You're right," she whispered. "We make everything a joke because it's easier. I guess I forgot what happens when someone doesn't laugh back." Tom nodded slowly. "We all forget." And just like that, the tension dissolved, not with resolution, but with recognition. Whoopi wiped at her eyes, laughing softly. "Damn, Tom. You just gave us all a therapy session on live TV." The audience laughed, this time, not out of discomfort, but release. The camera zoomed in on Tom one last time. He smiled faintly, eyes glassy. Maybe that's what we all need. A little less performance, a little more grace. The screen faded to black as the audience rose in applause. But the moment wasn't over. Not even close. Because outside that studio, the world was already buzzing. Clips were being uploaded, tweets were being written, headlines were forming. Tom Hanks had done the unthinkable. He'd made the View stop talking. By the time the studio lights dimmed and the last of the audience filtered out, the View had already stopped being just a talk show. It had become the epicenter of something much bigger. The crew moved quietly, their usual chatter replaced with hushed disbelief. Joy Behar sat in her chair long after the credits rolled, staring at the empty seats where the audience had once cheered. Tom Hanks was gone. He'd walked off the set without fanfare, without a goodbye, just a nod to Whoopi and a soft, "Thank you for letting me say it." But outside those studio walls, the storm had already begun. By noon, the clip had exploded across social media. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. Every platform was flooded with the same video. Tom Hanks, his voice calm but trembling, saying, "We've all become actors in a world that stopped caring about truth." It wasn't just trending, it was consuming the internet. Hashtag Tom Hanks. Hashtag The View Meltdown. Hashtag Grace at Midnight. 3 hashtags, millions of views, and one question echoing across every corner of the online world. What happened to Tom Hanks on The View? Some called it bravery. Others called it a breakdown. But everyone agreed. They'd never seen anything like it. The morning talk shows scrambled to cover it. Clips from The View were replayed on CNN, Entertainment Tonight, and even late-night monologues. Every outlet dissected every expression, every pause, every word. Analysts debated whether Tom had planned it or whether it was a moment of raw, unfiltered emotion. On TikTok, users stitched together reaction videos, some crying, others applauding. One popular clip showed a young woman whispering through tears. "He said what everyone's been thinking for years. That we treat pain like content. That we've stopped being human." The comment section overflowed with agreement. He didn't have a meltdown. He woke up. This wasn't anger, this was truth. Joy Behar just met the one guest who wouldn't play her game. By sunset, Joy herself had become a trending topic. Clips of her smiling uncomfortably during the confrontation were being turned into memes, slowed down, captioned with phrases like, "When you realize you picked the wrong guy to provoke." But the truth, the full truth, was more complicated. That evening, Joy broke her silence. Sitting in her dressing room, she filmed a short, unedited video for her social media account. No makeup, no lights, just her and the camera. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "Today was tough. I've done this job a long time, and I've had my share of heated moments. But what happened with Tom, that was different. He didn't come to fight. He came to feel. And I think I forgot how to meet someone there." She paused, tears glimmering at the corners of her eyes. "I owe him a thank you for reminding me that not everything is entertainment. Sometimes it's just human." The video went viral within an hour. The public's reaction shifted instantly. Where some had mocked her, now they admired her vulnerability. Comments poured in. "This is the Joy I remember." Respect to her for owning it. Maybe Tom helped more than he knew. Meanwhile, Tom Hanks stayed silent. For nearly 2 days, no statements, no interviews, no tweets. The world waited. News outlets speculated wildly. Some claiming his publicist had told him to lay low, others suggesting he was planning a formal apology. But then, on the 3rd day, Tom finally spoke. A single post appeared on his verified Instagram account. A black and white photo of an empty stage, a single microphone standing in the spotlight. The caption read, "Sometimes the hardest thing in the world is to tell the truth when everyone wants a story. I didn't plan what I said. I just stopped pretending. Be kind, The world is listening. No hashtags. No tagging. Just that. It was shared over 10 million times in less than 24 hours. Celebrities, journalists, even political figures reposted it with words like powerful, necessary, real. But for those who'd been in that studio, the memory of that day carried something deeper, something unspoken. Whoopi Goldberg, appearing on the next day's show, opened with a message that silenced the studio before the first topic could even begin. She looked straight into the camera, her voice steady, emotional. Yesterday, we had a moment. Not a meltdown, not drama, a moment of truth. Sometimes, truth doesn't come wrapped in politeness. It just comes. And we need to make space for that. The audience erupted in applause. Joy, sitting beside her, nodded solemnly. Tom Hanks reminded me why I started doing this in the first place. Not to argue, not to win, but to understand. Sonny added, it was uncomfortable, but real change always is. The view that day felt different. Slower, quieter, human. And somewhere in Los Angeles, Tom watched from home, a soft smile on his face. His wife, Rita Wilson, placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. You okay? She asked. He nodded. For the first time in a long time, yeah. He turned off the TV and stepped outside, the evening air cool against his skin. The world was still spinning, still talking, still posting, still buzzing, but for him, it had finally slowed down. He looked up at the sky, whispered to himself, Grace. And for once, that word didn't feel like a movie title. It felt like peace. The headlines continued for weeks. Analysts called it the View moment that changed daytime television. Producers debated how to capture that kind of authenticity again, forgetting, of course, that you can't script truth. Clips of Tom's words began appearing in classrooms, sermons, podcasts. People quoted him in posts about honesty, empathy, and burnout. A movement had started, quiet but growing, urging people to stop performing and start feeling. Even Joy admitted later in an interview, it wasn't an outburst. It was a wake-up call. And though The View eventually returned to its usual rhythm, celebrity guests, light-hearted debates, morning laughter, there was always a trace of that day in the air. The audience could feel it. The hosts could feel it. Every time a guest sat down in that chair where Tom Hanks had once spoken his truth, the studio seemed to hold its breath, as if waiting for another moment of grace. Because that's what it had become, not just television history, but a reminder that even in a world built on noise and spectacle, sometimes the quietest voice, the one trembling, tired, and unfiltered, can shake everything. So now I ask you, the viewer, what do you think? Was Tom Hanks right to speak his truth on live TV? Or did he go too far? Do you think honesty still has a place in the spotlight? Or has entertainment swallowed it whole? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to Stage View for more dramatic and cinematic breakdowns of moments just like this. The ones that remind us what it means to be human, even under the brightest lights. Because here, on Stage View, we don't just watch the story. We feel it.